Hello, Mr. Jenkins.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. It's such a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Thank you.
I know you're a business owner, entrepreneur, a husband, a dad.
Yeah.
So I am very proud of you and happy that I'm able to do this interview with you.
Thank you. Same here.
Okay. So just to tell you a little bit of what I'm doing, this is an educational video where I use the Socratic questioning, where this questioning will dig a little deeper. You know, Socrates taught people, you know, just anything besides the answer, receiving the answer yes or no. So I'll ask you kind of like, how do you feel about this? How does it make you feel? And I think that can improve our communication as our role as husband and wife. Also, if we, you know, explored ideas and just put our input of how it made us feel, how did it make us smell? Did it bring back memories? What did it do to you? You know, things like that. So my topic that I'm going to talk about is real-time documentation. So by the end of this just interview, you'll be able to tell me what real-time documentation is.
Okay, look forward to it.
Yes, and the benefits of it. So just to give you a little backstory about why this is important, because our current process right now is to get on our computers every morning to print the patient census list.
Okay.
And then go to the hospital and see the patients.
Okay.
So that right there, that leaves room for error. You know, just printing that information, we could lose it.
Mm-hmm.
We could drop it. We could leave it in a patient's room. So that could open up the door to a hacker or somebody being able to get patient information.
I get it. Yeah.
So if we eliminated that step and just use real-time documentation of using a tablet, you know, if we got our company to invest, we already have a telephone. Mm-hmm. So if they invested in us a tablet, we could do real-time documentation.
Right. I get that.
And what real-time documentation is, it's just like what it says it is. It's real-time documentation. So we'd use our tablets, we would document right there in front of the patient, the outcomes, where we need to send them to the best possible positive outcomes. So they can go, like if they were going to a nursing home, if they were going home, we can get everything in place.
And that saves you time where you don't have to go home.
Yes, and do the documentation.
Okay.
So you see,
sense.
yeah. So how would that benefit you, even as a husband?
Well, that would be a lot of extra time that we have together.
Yeah.
If you come, because now you come home and I see you always documenting stuff.
Yes.
And it takes you a while to do that. So if you could eliminate that by doing that at the hospitals while you actually there, then I mean that's a lot of extra time.
Exactly. So like I said, I just wanted to define what that is. You know, real-time documentation is sitting in a patient's room and I'm documenting their phone number, you know, and the home health they want to use. If they need transportation or a van, or if their family members are going to take them home. So that just, once I can show that I have all these steps in place, that allows the doctors to say, okay, well, we can send this patient safely home.
Right.
You know, but that's how important real-time documentation is. So what we would need to do is order a tablet, just to have, for security reasons anyway. You know, a laptop is kind of bulky. But if we were to use a tablet, that's something just like you go in Verizon and you see the guys with it around their necks. So we wouldn't have to sit it down on nobody's bed or anybody's table. So that would prevent infection. So how does that kind of touch bases with you, just to have something that would prevent infection?
I think that would be awesome, for the simple fact, you know, we do have kids at home. But with us having kids, you know, it's kind of like, well, I know she's not bringing anything into the home that's, you know, has germs on it. So I think that would benefit quite well.
Yes. So, and I think since we already have a current process of, you know, signing out phones, just adding additional tablets should be the same process that we have to do with the phones, you know. So it wouldn't be no extra problem. And you know, with big companies, when they get proposals or budget something, they get a whole bunch of tablets at one time when they buy a good piece, so that would cut out on the cost. And then also, just imagine you being a patient, just putting yourself in the patient's shoes. Do you think you would be disturbed by your nurse liaison coming in the room and, you know, not being able to look at you face to face, but working on a computer, would that kind of?
Actually, no, it wouldn't bother me at all because I would kind of like that for the simple fact if I know she's in there, I'm gonna ask questions. So while she's there, yeah, she's doing her notes, but I'm gonna ask questions, and you know, hey, that wouldn't hurt me at all. I would love it.
Yeah, that's kind of the generation we're in. You know, we gotta incorporate technology into everything.
Right.
I mean, and use it for the good.
Right.
So, tell me what you have learned from this interview.
Well, I've learned that nurses actually do work hard. I know just by you guys having to actually, you have to use your brain because you're holding all that stuff in.
Yes.
You have to leave there. You can't document while you're there.
Wait just a second. Let me just piggyback on what you just said. I don't want to lose this thought. Just getting out what's on our brain onto a tablet. That's information that we don't have to store.
You don't have to store.
I don't have to store, so I can leave room for other information to be there.
Right, and that's what I was getting at. Like, by you having to come home, that means you having to store that information. You have to go home, then you have to jot it down when you get home. Instead of you can do it there, and actually that will be a bigger help, and that's the best thing to do because you won't have a brain fog.
Yes.
You'll have it all right then,
yes.
instead of waiting 2 hours to get home and complete
it. Exactly. So tell me what real-time documentation is.
Real-time documentation is basically you're just what it says, real-time documentation. While you're there, you're documenting while you're there in the patient's room. So everything you're doing, you're taking it in at that moment, and you're not having to go home later and do it. It's just what it says it is, real-time documentation. And
when I put that information into that tablet, all the providers are able to see that, and they're all, be able to, come up with the best possible outcome.
Awesome. That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate your time and your input.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can use this method of, Socrates. I love history because we can learn a lot from history.
Right.
And the old saying, if we don't know our history, it will repeat itself.
That's
so,
right.
Communication is always an area where we can improve. So, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.